Hey, followers, here we are again on Relentless and Unstoppable. Today we have Andy McPhee, my coach and mentor, and we have Denise House with us, and she has a good story to tell. Hey, Denise, how you doing?
Yeah, well, thanks, Doug. Hey,
Hi,
Andy.
Denise. How you doing, mate?
Yeah.
How you going? Do you want to just now? I'm just going to let everybody know my camera's a bit shaky because today it's called Shakeless and Unstoppable because I'm down by the pool here and my camera stand is my hand. It's not the steadiest. So I'm in LA. Doug's in Arizona. Can you just let everybody know where you are, Denise?
Yeah, I'm in a small town called Jabiru, which is in Kakadu, which is a World Heritage National Park in Northern Territory in Australia. There you go.
Yeah, and you're right in the outback, aren't you?
Yeah, some people call it the outback. I don't feel too remote. We're only 2.5 hours from the next town, which is Darwin, but some people are a
Yeah.
lot further away than what we are.
Yeah, and for like people overseas who've not been to Australia, like it, even though you're used to living there, it is quite remote for people when they travel, isn't it? Like it's a whole different world, different community up in Darwin and all those outback stations, cattle stations, and the properties up there. A whole different world, eh?
Oh, definitely. I lived in every state in Australia now, and this is the most unique out of all of them. And
Oh well.
if you're not someone who doesn't like having internet, you wouldn't like it. As you drive into the Darwin, the capital city of the Northern Territory, and you'll have internet not at all for most of the drive. So a lot of people overseas can't tolerate that or aren't used to it. So it's
Yeah.
interesting. What the wet season happening at the moment?
Oh, yeah. Can you just tell us before we get into a little bit about the wet season? Because it's interesting how people, adjust to that up there.
Yeah. So, I know I'm talking in degrees Celsius and not Fahrenheit, so you guys will have to compare that over. But we never go below 30 degrees Celsius, and sometimes we get up to 40. And for about 3 or 4 months of the year, which is now we call it the wet season, and it just buckets down. I was saying to Doug before, it rains so much we actually don't have any gutters on the houses because it just couldn't hold the rain. And then for the rest of the year, so, like you're looking at another 8 months of the year, we get no rain whatsoever. So it goes through
Wow.
this beautiful tropical green and spear grass grows up, and over the time then eventually it dries down, but all the waterfalls fill up and, the crocodiles start moving around. So we've got a lot of crocodiles that live up this area as well. This is where crocodiles live still. So a lot of people.
Yeah, I was going to say, like with the crocodiles and that, I get a lot of people asking me over here. They go, "So is it true you got all these animals that will kill you?" Like it's really funny. I mean, yeah, but so everyone's got animals that'll kill you somewhere. I said, but yeah, there's certain parts of Australia where you have to be very aware, and up where you are, it is quite dangerous if you're not aware of the rivers, where to go swimming or fishing, right?
Yeah, well, you can't go swimming anywhere unless it's been cleared by the Kakadu National Park by the rangers. Certain swimming holes are designated for it because otherwise there's crocs. We've got over 10,000 crocodiles up here in the north in Kakadu alone. So there's a lot.
10,000. Oh, that's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot.
And can I ask a question? Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying between the buffalo and all the snakes but 1/3 of Australian bird life is actually in Kakadu as well. It's beautiful, the bird life here.
You said you have buffalo there?
Yes, which is a pet. The buffalo was brought in for meat breeding, and then it's just the park does try to cull them, but there's just too many. Like Kakadu National Park is 20,000 hectares, which is pretty much the size of England, really. So it's quite a big area.
I have a buffalo tattoo right here.
There you go.
I think they're a little bit of a different breed, aren't they, Denise?
Yeah. It's a different species buffalo, but all come from the same mob at the end of the day.
What I was going to ask you then was, with the wet season, also a lot of places get isolated, right? You can't actually travel out of certain areas for quite a few months.
Yeah. We even get blocked in. It can rain where the road going to Darwin gets blocked off for a few weeks. definitely going over the East Alligator, which is Cave Hills Crossing. It's deemed the most dangerous crossing in Australia, mainly just because of the crocodiles that cross the crossing as you're trying to go into East Arnhem Land. They get completely cut off. At the moment, the river's flowing over 2 meters high. And so a lot of times what people do is they'll drive the car over here to the little airport at Jabiru. So if they need to get in and out, they'll catch the flight from over East Arnhem Land to here, and then they can drive to Darwin to get their supplies and food.
Well, I actually crossed when how Denise and myself met. We met because they were doing a film up in Kakadu called High Ground, which is about to be released in 2021, I think. And it's a true story about the Indigenous, story way back past the 1800s, but that was the era that they chose. And we met in Kakadu, became good friends. Denise took me on a tour around incredible cave paintings and, the Indigenous caves and the land where, it's just amazing. That artwork was some of it was like 20, 30,000 years old, right?
Yeah, there's like, a few thousand-year-old artwork, and they've found the oldest artifact, 65,000-year-old artifact up here. So it's showing the oldest living hominins in the world. And it's amazing. All here. It's amazing. Yeah, it's a very special, unique part of the world. So
when you took me on that tour, it was like breathtaking.
Yeah, it is. It's great. There's so much there, and there's so much rock art that's out there that people aren't allowed to go to, and there's a lot of sacred sites and a lot of ceremony areas because you have female and male ceremony areas. There's a lot of places that the tourists can't actually go to as well.
Yeah, right. Understandably too, to protect it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, that's it. Thanks for that. I'm sure it's really interesting to the followers listening to that, and we'll put up Doug will put up a little map of where you actually are when we put this out. It'll have Kakadu, and I've shared it with a lot of people here, friends of mine, American friends of mine, and they've said, yeah, well, we're going to Australia soon. I said, you got to go out there. I said, go visit other places, but you really have to go out there and check it out because it's just a whole different world.
And be very open-minded because a lot of people come because it's a Kakadu National Park, World Heritage National Park. A lot of World Heritage National Parks are all done up with bells and bitumen road, sealed road everywhere. Well, this isn't. I always call it quite raw. So you've got to be ready for the flies, you've got to be ready for the flies, you've got to be ready for the mosquitoes, and you definitely got to be ready for the heat because it's always hot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. I'm used to the heat, but when I was up there, like Denise works at the swimming pool, so I left the hotel one day to go to the swimming pool. It would only been, I don't know, a couple hundred feet away or something. Let me tell you, I was in that shade looking for trees. Like it literally was burning me. It takes a bit of getting used to up there.
We all just have sweaty armpits all the time, Andy. We just get used to it.
I know, right? Well, so one of my friends told me, he said that when they go to work, it's normal. You come in with your work shirt on, you've got a business meeting, everyone's sweating. They just go, it's part of life. You just don't even try to hide it because you can't.
Like the drip between the boobs. It's like this.
That's funny. Hey, Dougie, any questions, for Denise before we get into the purpose of why we're got Denise as a guest on the show today?
For sure. I must ask you, Denise, what are you doing these days?
Okay, so it's funny when people always ask me that. I say paid work or not paid work because there's a bit of difference, isn't there? So paid work, I've been very fortunate. We've been up here for 3 years. We've moved from Margaret River, which is in Western Australia, 3 hours south of Perth. And 3 kids and my partner, we decided to move up here. He got a job opportunity. And we originally said no because there's a uranium mine here and it's closing down. And he offered for a company that does the dredging for the rehabilitation as it's closing down. And originally said no to the job because just where the kids were at school. And then I tapped into Tony Robbins' 6 core human needs, and the second one being uncertainty and adventure. And I just went back to the family and said, you know what, we need this. Let's do this adventure. How often can you say you get the chance to live in a World Heritage National Park? And so, the kids came back and went, yep, let's do it. And it's been wonderful. And the opportunities that have landed in my lap, I'm so grateful for. And the people, it's only a population of 800 people surrounded by 11 Indigenous communities or outstations. And my personal paid roles, at the swimming pool where I met Andy and numerous people as a pool lifeguard, I play a sport called underwater hockey. So when I moved up here, I spoke to the Barb, who's the pool operator or manager, and she said, "Yep, start it." So we started this sport up here that nobody had heard of. Thought it was actually a joke, and it's just gone from strength to strength. And we had last year what we called the Invitational Cup. We had over 30 people from Australia attend to it. It was fantastic. So then
Wow.
Yeah, it was really good. Get onto the Facebook page, Deborah Underwater Hockey, and you can see parts of it.
Yeah, for sure.
And from there, I did a little bit of work at the school, which was great. And then I got a job at the Kakadu National Park at the Information Centre, which has been excellent. So that's my second job. But my main role, I got a job beginning of this year at Readily Health Board, which is an Indigenous Health Board association, as their project officer. And I love it. And when we moved here, I mean, I could have easily gotten a job out in the mine, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to actually be part of the community and know how this community works, and especially learn more about the country and the culture. And I've been very fortunate that my three main roles have allowed that, and it's been incredible. And it's just great, the programs that I've been able to run with the Indigenous and the schools, and I've really been very, very blessed and thanked for that.
And it really is like I said before, it's different, isn't it? Like, you come from the cities up there. There's a few little local rules that you've got to understand coming from the city, because it is a different situation up there with the Indigenous and, the protection of certain areas. And also, like I was sitting in a hotel one day, and I saw this van pull up out the front, and there was probably 6 or 7 of the local Indigenous men, and they were pouring, like, the back of the van was full of leaves. Like, I'm talking like truckloads of it, and they're pouring it on the ground. So what are they doing? And then I saw the elder. He was going through the hotel with a little bucket with smoke, and then I saw others putting their red ochre around, and I had to ask someone what they were doing. And it's a ritual that they do for someone who's just passed away, or wherever that person's visited. Yeah,
definitely. So when in the Australian Indigenous, when someone dies, to move so their spirit doesn't linger on, they go around the ochre, which is a natural rock dug, which they paint themselves with as well. And then they have eucalyptus leaves, which they do as smoky, to smoke the spirit away. And so wherever that person was, what you'll even see on people's cars, buildings, they'll go to and it can take months to actually do, depending if that person, where they've lived or worked. So and so what happens is the family will split up and do it around the numerous places. And then once they've done that, then you're allowed to go back into that building or that place or that car again, but not until they've done that. It's actually very beautiful. And years ago, what they used to do is when someone would pass and die, they'd put their body on, say, rock faces or cliff or up high, and then they'd have people, they're just watching it, and naturally the body would decompose till the bones were left. And then they would put ochre on the bones, and then they would put those bones either into a trunk of a tree, it's like a coffin, I suppose, or they'd put them just straight up into a cave and leave them there.
Oh, so, wow. Yeah, the rituals are amazing,
Yeah.
To watch them do it was fantastic. Like just the care, and like I was just sitting there amazed by and how you can see that regardless of wherever they went, didn't matter what building, what office, what hotel, there was the understanding of the community is that's what they do, and it was just really eye opener. It was great, you know, to understand a bit of their culture, you know.
Yeah. No,
That
sorry,
that
business.
really blew my mind.
Yeah, it's
Well,
awesome, Doug. You got to get out there one day, mate.
Yeah, I got to get to Australia one of these days and learn you guys' culture. Andy has already taught me some of his Aussie culture with his
No,
son.
yeah, that's a little bit different. It's a little bit different than what we're talking about.
Yeah,
that's
Um,
okay.
but yeah, I want to definitely learn more about the people there, like the
mm,
indigenous. How do you say that again?
Yeah, Indigenous.
Indigenous.
The
Indigenous.
First Nation, People's First Nation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely want to learn more about that because that culture seems really fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's the same, Doug, and I'll just divert off a little bit. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but you know, with the American Native Indian, the same with their indigenous cultures, incredible. You know, like their artwork and their, you know, their dress and costume. Like it's just, I love reading about it. You know, it's really, really beautiful to understand a lot more about our country's indigenous people. You know, and I
Yeah,
think that's sort of. Sorry, Doug, go on.
that kind of reminds me of what I'm studying currently in my college. I'm currently taking an arts course, and I've learned about the artwork of the Greeks and the Romans and even the Aztecs. My mind was blown by what I learned about Aztec art.